I'm thrilled to welcome you all to today's press conference convened by the Not Above the Law Coalition on the day of Donald Trump's third arraignment. As we all know, on Tuesday, a grand jury indicted Trump on 4 counts, accusing him of 3 separate conspiracy crimes: to defraud the United States, to obstruct and impede the certification of the 2020 elections, and to deprive Americans of our vote. His allies are predictably saying that these indictments just continue the witch hunt, that this is an attack on a much beleaguered leader. Well, I have a different frame, which is Trump committed obvious crimes before and during his time in office, and the rule of law is working. That's right. Donald Trump has now been criminally charged for attempting to stop the peaceful transfer of power, and the charges come from the very government that he attempted to take over by force. The fact that President Donald Trump has thus far managed to escape accountability for his historic crimes, despite an impeachment, despite devastating findings from the bipartisan January 6th Select Committee, is a wrong that needs correcting, and these charges from the DOJ are beginning that work. There can be no more serious alleged crime than a conspiracy to overturn the very foundation of our democracy, the right of all Americans to cast our vote and have it be counted. And so, we the people, we deserve this trial to be brought forward promptly. We're gathered here today really just to memorialize a simple fact. In these indictments, the justice system is working as it should. Holding the highest office in the land should not, according to the Constitution, and does not provide immunity from accountability. As would be the case for any other American who committed such serious crimes, our legal system will judge Trump's actions and determine what the consequences will be from here. To protect the integrity of our democracy, it is essential that this case proceed like any other. And the same is true for the previous indictments that Trump has been charged with, and likely the next one that we will see from Georgia. It really can't be said enough. It is the name of our coalition. No one is above the law, and that includes a former president of the United States.
Yes.
So with that, I'm thrilled to bring up my co-moderator, Svante Muric, the president of People for the American Way, a leader in the Not Above the Law Coalition, along with Public Citizen, a friend and leader.
Thank you and good afternoon. My name is Svante Muric. I'm the president of People for the American Way. For 4 decades, we have fought to make sure that every American enjoys the right to vote and to have that vote counted. And so we're here today. I'll confess, I was speaking to a reporter and I might have been smiling, and they said, well, are you happy today? And I actually had to think about it for a moment. Am I happy today? I'm not happy because I'm not satisfied. And I'm also not happy because, frankly, it is a dangerous moment in a democracy to have to arraign a former president. It's a dangerous moment. And so we are not happy. This is not a celebration, but this is, in fact, a reckoning. This is a reckoning. Frankly, it's taken far too long to get here, but we are relieved that it is here now. Because the only thing more dangerous than arraigning a former president for his crimes is allowing a president to attempt to subvert our democracy and then get away with it. The true danger is, we all know, the world knows, the world is watching what happens here today. We know what he attempted to do. And now, because of the facts in Jack Smith's indictment report, we know that Donald Trump knew what he was attempting to do. Donald Trump was lying to his supporters. Donald Trump was mobilizing government resources to install fake electors and keep himself in the White House despite losing both the popular vote and the Electoral College. Imagine where that ends. Do we really believe that after a second Donald Trump term, he would not do the same thing? And after a third Donald Trump term, he wouldn't install Donald Trump Jr.? as president for life of the United States? We have all, it seems like a joke, doesn't it? But we have seen democracy slide this way before. We have seen strong men, including some of Donald Trump's favorite world leaders, by the way, get reelected with 99% of the vote. We have seen what happens to a republic that does not have checks and balances. Ladies and gentlemen, today, we are seeing Donald Trump be checked. And we are seeing his attempted coup be rebalanced by a Department of Justice that for the first time in our nation's history has indicted a president for attempting to invalidate an election. And I would be remiss if I did not say, as a black American, that it's not lost on me that Donald Trump is being arraigned today under the very same statutes used to prosecute the KKK. This very same stochastic terrorism and attempts to disenfranchise voters, the same things the DOJ used to put the Klan underground, are being used on a former president that surgically targeted Atlanta, Detroit, and Milwaukee. That went to where black voters voted and tried to have our votes thrown out. So no, we're not celebrating. We are gearing up, because as the DOJ does their work, we in our coalition will continue to do ours, to lift up these voices and to remind Americans that this government still belongs to us. This nation still belongs to us, and we will have the final say next November and every 4 years after that. So thank you for being here, and I hope you're welcome to the stage. Actually, it's Pravina's next. This is the Vice President of the Constitutional Accountability Center. Good to see you.
Woo!
How are you?
Yeah, we're great. We're listening to the speeches. Yeah. How about you?
Thank you, Savante. In a few hours, Donald Trump will be arraigned on a new set of federal charges, including conspiracy to defraud the United States, conspiracy to obstruct an official proceeding, obstruction of an attempt to obstruct an official proceeding, and conspiracy to deprive people of their rights. What rights? Deprivation of what rights? The right to vote and the right to have that vote be counted. This last charge, as Savante mentioned, refers to a violation of 18 U.S.C. Section 241, a statute passed during Reconstruction, a period of our nation's history so significant that historians often refer to it as the Second Founding. This law was originally passed primarily to allow the federal government to prosecute those who tried to prevent formerly enslaved black Americans from voting or from having their vote be counted. And in the past century, this statute has been used countless times by the Department of Justice under Republican and Democratic administrations to promote and protect voting rights and to help preserve the multiracial, participatory democracy that is our nation's promise. The lessons from our history cannot be forgotten. The framers of this Reconstruction-era statute recognized the danger to our nation when a threat to voting was not taken seriously. The threat is that some will use fraud, intimidation, corruption, and yes, violence to prevent people from voting or from having their vote be counted. And as the meticulously crafted indictment from Special Counsel Jack Smith and his colleagues demonstrates, that threat remains painfully real today. When such offenses occur, they must be prosecuted. A trial should proceed without delay, and it must go wherever the law and the facts lead. The American people deserve nothing less. If the rule of law is to mean anything in our nation, it must mean that the laws that bind you and me bind the powerful. And yes, that includes former presidents. No one is above the law. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Praveen. So now we're turning to an organization that is focused on everyone having the right to vote, including the people of the District of Columbia. So I'm going to call over Patrice Snow, Director of Communications from DC Vote, to talk about what the vote means to all of us.
Good afternoon, everyone. My name is Patrice Snow, and I'm the Director of Communications at DC Vote. Let's make no mistake about it. The crimes outlined in these indictments are a direct threat to our American democracy. And here, in our nation's capital, the 700,000 people who call DC home feel the impact of these crimes in a different way than the people living in the 50 states. In our federal government, the only representation we have here in DC is our 3 votes in the Electoral College. We are locked out of the Senate. Our voice in the House is just that, a voice. We have no final vote on the policies under which we live. The only time our voices count is in the eyes of the federal government is when we cast them for President of the United States. And had the alleged crime succeeded, we would have had that right ripped away as well. We feel the impact of these crimes because they happen right here in our home and will be tried here in our courts by a jury made up of our neighbors. The people of DC will be asked to rise to the role and decide one of the most consequential cases in American history, and we will. There are those who will once again try to cast the people of DC as part of the problem. That's because they don't know us. They don't know our neighborhoods. They paint us with a broad brush, claiming we're all alike, beholden to the government, or part of the swamp. But we are a proud people, a people truly representative of the nation. We come from all backgrounds, all incomes, all races, all sexual orientations, all gender identities, and all political parties. And like no other place in the country, we are proud to be the nation's capital, and we believe in the ideals that built it. We never take for granted our democracy. We have fought for far too long for the little scraps that we have been given. The people of DC deserve the full and equal representation of statehood because we are fully and equally representative of this nation. We, the people of DC, will ensure that our democracy is protected, even as we continue to be blocked from it. We always have, and we always will. Thank you so much, and stand with us as we demand DC statehood right now. Thank you.
Washington, D.C. will be our 51st state. We'll be equal with all the others. All the states are equal. We love them all the most. But if we didn't, then we would acknowledge that New York State was the best. Our next speaker has experience. Quiet down. Our next speaker has experience working at the highest levels of New York State government, and now she's taken her talents to mobilizing people across the country as the executive director of Stand Up America. Please welcome Christina Harvey.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Christina Harvey. Good afternoon. And thank you all for coming out today. It's awesome to see so many folks out here. I'm Christina Harvey. I'm the executive director of Stand Up America, but I'm the former senior advisor to the New York Attorney General. And I'm here today on behalf of our nearly 2 million members across the country who are fighting every day to protect and strengthen our democracy. This afternoon, Trump will be arraigned for the 3rd time. This time for his attempts to overturn the 2020 election to cling to power, even after he knew that he had lost. Trump and his MAGA cronies are trying repeatedly to lie about Trump's crimes. And many pundits are focused on the political theater of this moment, on who's up and who's down on any particular day. So it's important for us to take a moment to step back and think about what's fundamentally at stake with this indictment, what this indictment is actually about. It's about whether or not we as Americans, when we cast our ballot, can actually be confident that our vote will be counted, no matter what political party we belong to and no matter who we voted for. It's about whether or not a president and his allies can throw out the votes of voters they don't like in order to stay in power. It's about whether or not we are a democracy or an authoritarian regime, where elections are just for show and the same people seem to stay in power no matter the will of the voters. The answer should be clear that we, the American people, choose our leaders, not the other way around. That we decide whether or not our leaders stay or go, because this is a democracy. And that's something that most of our elected leaders have seemed to understand until recently. Over the last week, we have seen many Republicans rush to defend Trump, including many Republican presidential candidates who have said that if they become president, they will interfere with the Department of Justice and in processes like these. Accountability for Trump and his co-conspirators is crucial if we want to stop the next Trump, or Trump, from undermining the will of voters again. Now that Trump has been indicted for his crimes against our democracy, finally, we must let the Department of Justice and the courts do their job without interference from anyone. We can't let anyone interfere, and we can't let Trump and his cronies rewrite history. I have read all 45 pages of the DOJ's indictment, and I can tell you that the truth is simple. Trump deliberately lied about voter fraud. He used those lies to push state elected officials to overturn the will of voters and to create fake slates of electors. Then he pressured Mike Pence to throw out our real votes and accept those fake electors instead. And when all of his plots failed, when every plot failed, he instigated a violent insurrection as a last-ditch attempt to overturn the will of the American people. Now I'm going to finish by quoting Mitch McConnell, somebody who I do not often quote. But Mitch McConnell said in 2021, "This was an intensifying crescendo of conspiracy theories, orchestrated by an outgoing president who seemed determined to either overturn the voters' decision or else torch our institutions on the way out." Now, even less frequently than I quote Mitch McConnell do I agree with Mitch McConnell, but that was well put. Stand Up America and our members will continue lifting this truth. We will continue standing up against the lies that are being told about Trump's crimes right now. And we will continue to make sure our elected officials stand up for our democracy instead of sabotaging it. Thank you, and thank you all for coming out today.
Thanks so much, Christina, and fantastic to see a bipartisan quote on this stage. This issue is and should be bipartisan, pursuing the truth and getting accountability. So now I am thrilled to bring up Christian Nunes, president of the National Organization of Women, to speak.
Hello, everyone. Well, thank you so much to Not Above the Law Coalition for having this press conference and rally today. It's so extremely important. Martin Luther King said it best when he said, "Our lives begin to end the day we begin to become silent about things that matter." So right now, for the past few years, we have seen our democracy under attack. We've seen our fair elections under attack. We've seen violence, hate, bigotry, misogyny, racism be used as weapons to scare, threaten anyone who has tried to stand up for justice. Yet today we are here to remind everyone that what unwavering commitment to justice looks like. So can I get an amen on that one? So today we've seen that our system of justice prepared to hold Donald Trump accountable for his crimes against democracy. But truth can't wait for just Trump's to be held accountable and his trials to begin. We must all be willing to stand on the line for truth and justice. We must all be willing to stand on the lines for truth and justice. We must continue this campaign for truth, to protect our freedoms, stand up for forces against oppression and marginalization and discrimination that Donald Trump feeds on. Donald Trump has been indicted for conspiracy and obstruction, but it's his contempt for the law that screams from the rooftops. Contempt for democracy and for our elections. Contempt for everything that stands in his way, and all he stands for is for himself. But it's time we finally hold him accountable, and hold him accountable for all the violence that he's been inciting for the last few years, inflaming on vital voter suppression and for this country. Donald Trump is not above the law. And Donald Trump does not stand alone in this. He stands along amongst a line of people who've been helping him and standing the structural ills of this country. Those white supremacy, homophobia, misogyny, xenophobia. All of this, we must be held accountable as well. If we are to ensure that everyone can equally enjoy justice and equality, we cannot have a former president be able to operate on his own set of rules. We cannot allow continued attacks on our democracy go unchecked and uncontrolled. To keep everyone safe, we will demand that no one be held above the law. And we will continue to call out everyone who will try to maintain systems of oppression and disenfranchisement. I cannot think of anything more anti-American and anti-freedom than attacking the very foundations of democracy. But we will not bend and we will not break. I want you all to say that. We will not bend, and we will not break. That's why we will continue to hold him accountable and his associates accountable. But we will also need to dismantle the very systems of oppression and white supremacy that perpetuate injustice in this country. Donald Trump is facing prison time today because he tried to subvert the elections. We cannot let this be normal behavior in this country. And we cannot let our democracy continue to be hijacked by voter restrictions and laws that disproportionately impact young people, persons with disabilities, LGBTQIA persons, underserved communities, and people of color. We cannot allow this to happen. Within each of these communities, women are most harshly impacted, and we have to make sure that Congress passed the Freedom to Vote Act. It's essential to fair and free elections. So as we come back, we need to make sure that we all join together in inclusive solidarity. We need each other, we need our power. We cannot let the special interests of money and special interests of power lead. We deserve leaders who are fighting for us and for equality and justice. Now we'll be there, now the law will be there. We ask you all join us, because Donald Trump and no one is above the law. Thank you.
Terrific. It is now my pleasure to introduce to you Noah Bookbinder. Noah has been president for the last 8 years of CREW, which is the Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington. Ladies and gentlemen, Noah Bookbinder.
Hi.
Hi.
So apparently there was an indictment this week. So the reason we're out here today is not because a former president was indicted for the third time, though that is remarkable. We're out here talking about this indictment because this is the big one. This is the one that addresses Donald Trump's efforts to prevent the peaceful transfer of power, to invalidate the votes of tens of millions of Americans, and to keep himself in power by force after an election that he lost. That is about the most serious offense a leader can commit in a republic. And if it went unaddressed, we risk that becoming accepted in America, something that could and will happen every time someone power-hungry doesn't like the result of an election. If that happens, our democracy breaks down and we lose our ability to choose our own leaders. All of the indictments of Donald Trump are important, but that's why this one is essential to the future of our democracy. I used to be a federal corruption prosecutor. I prosecuted senior officials and low-level government employees, people who used their positions to enrich themselves or disrupted government functions for their own gain. Accountability was crucial to make sure that we safeguarded a government that worked for us, for the American people. It was a while ago now, and I don't remember everything, but I'm pretty sure of this. As important as those cases were, not a one of those people I prosecuted was a billionaire who used the American government to enrich themselves. Not a one of them tried to keep themselves in power after losing an election. Not a one of them threatened the continued viability of our republic. Yet they were appropriately prosecuted. You know why Donald Trump also needs to be prosecuted? You know, because no one is above the law. So what happens now? It's crucial that prosecutors like Jack Smith successfully bring Trump to justice and convict if that's what the law and the facts dictate. And I believe they will. It is crucial that litigators like us and state officials successfully enforce Donald Trump's disqualification from office under the 14th Amendment to the Constitution for engaging in insurrection. And I believe we will. And it is crucial that you go out there and spread the word. Trump and his supporters will argue that he is being persecuted, that the prosecutors are biased. We all have to get out there and tell the world that these were thorough investigations by prosecutors with integrity, that these charges are not just supported by fact and law, but necessary for the survival of our democracy. You need to tell the world that no one is above the law, and you need to be louder than they are. And I believe you will. Thanks so much for coming out today.
Thanks so much, Noah, and that line is spot on. This is necessary for the survival of democracy. And as everyone has said, no one is above the law. So I am thrilled now to hand the mic to our last speaker, to Rashad Thomas, Legislative Affairs Director at End Citizens United, Let America Vote.
Hello, everyone. My name is Rashad Thomas, and I'm here on behalf of End Citizens United, Let America Vote. We are a grassroots organization with more than 4 million members across the country, and we're dedicated to protecting the freedom to vote and rooting out corruption within our government. I'm honored to be here on this momentous day with so many great allies and leaders. We're here today to join the chorus of voices calling for accountability for Donald Trump and his co-conspirators. On January 6th, Donald Trump betrayed his oath to the Constitution of the United States of America, showing no regard for the rule of law and the democratic process. American democracy faced an unprecedented threat when Trump unleashed a mob of insurrectionists on the Capitol. And what's worse, 147 Republican members of Congress voted to deny the will of the people and overturn the results of the 2020 presidential election. It was a coordinated and meticulously planned attack at Donald Trump's command. January 6th was a direct attack on what this country was built on: free and fair elections and the peaceful transfer of power. We commend Special Counsel Jack Smith and the Justice Department for holding Donald Trump to account for his heinous crimes. This indictment is thorough, damning, and unequivocal in making the case against Trump. Today's arraignment is the next step in the fight for justice and accountability. No one is above the law, not even former presidents. While justice is being served, the ringleader of the criminal conspiracy to overturn the 2020 election is still the frontrunner for the 2024 Republican presidential nomination. And election deniers are still seeking power in states across the country. On top of that, MAGA Republicans in Congress, emboldened by Trump, have introduced their election denier wish list in the ACE Act, which would severely restrict Americans' access to the ballot box. The threats to our democracy persist, and they remain a top concern for ordinary Americans from coast to coast. That is why we need to continue to confront them, just as the prosecutors did this week. Safeguarding the freedom to vote is fundamental to preserving our democracy. Congress must pass national standards included in H.R. 11, the Freedom to Vote Act, so that attacks on this sacred freedom never come to fruition. If we don't pass these common sense measures, election denialism will take root in our country. This nation's noble experiment in self-government is too precious to allow a mendacious former president to attack its very foundations and walk away unscathed. We will never stop fighting to protect American democracy, and we hope you will join us in continuing the fight. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, that concludes our program this afternoon. Thank you all for being so committed to this fight. I hope you'll join me in thanking Lisa Gilbert, public citizen, just terrific. All of our partners in the Not Above the Law Coalition, please do check us out. From People for the American Way, the Constitutional Accountability Center, DC Vote, Stand Up America, the National Organization for Women, Citizens for Responsibility and Ethics in Washington, and End Citizens United / Let America Vote. I would rather be on our side than any other in the world, because you people are amazing. So thank you, and we'll see what happens. Okay. Thank you.